The earthvox podcast. The earthvox podcast. earthvox podcast.
Well, we're not making the penny anymore. News hot off the presses. Do they even use presses anymore? I don't think so. It's all just, anyway. When I think back to all of those great memories I had with pennies, it really hurts my soul to know that they're not going to be making them anymore, because I think the cost of making a penny is now 3.5 cents. And not to worry, they're not going around to round up all the rest of the remaining pennies. There's still something like $300 billion. What did I write down? 300 billion pennies still in circulation, which equates to $3 billion worth of pennies. And of course, this is just what they have on paper. We don't know how many have been destroyed. I used to sell Cutco knives when I was in college. I'm sure you know someone that used to sell Cutco. It was really awesome until you had to start cold calling the friends of your mom's friends that agreed to let you come over and do your little Cutco presentation. Then it got really awkward. But one of the elements of the presentation was that you were supposed to take the kitchen shears and cut a penny. And then what would you do with the penny? You couldn't spend it after that. So, I mean, I think probably at least 1 billion pennies fell to the Cutco kitchen shears. But it's over now. And I think it's kind of a bad sign that inflation has risen to the point where it's not even worth making pennies anymore, because the value of our currency has tanked so badly that now we're just not making some of it anymore. Rip the pennies. No new pennies after 2026. Or let me see, we should probably look at the article instead of pulling from my own memory. From the Post-Millennial, the headline, U.S. Mint ends penny production after 232 years. Americans will never see a penny dated 2026 or later, as the U.S. Mint officially ends production of the 1 cent coin after more than 2 centuries in circulation, 232. No more Abraham Lincoln. We'll have to gaze upon his likeness on the $5 bill. But not to worry, it will all be coming to an end soon when we go on our digital currency, using our digital IDs and saying goodbye to our freedom along with our pennies and our $5 bills. Welcome to the show. Sorry I was a little bit late. I couldn't tear myself away from the in-depth researching that I was doing. And as a matter of fact, I need to check. We are streaming live Sundays at 11 a.m. Theoretically, it was 11:14 today when I clicked the go live button. My apologies if you were waiting in eager anticipation. Riverside, which is my streaming platform, I suppose, has changed up a few things, and I've noticed that the layout has been a little bit weird, and it appears that I fixed it, but I am going to stop sharing my penny screen to see what happens. And it looks like it has taken me back to a weird... Yeah, see, now I'm just on one side of the screen. Riverside never ceases to continually improve and add new features, which unfortunately for this podcaster, broadcaster, vlogger, whatever you would call me, to frustrate my production of my one-man show here. But thank you again for joining me The video streams live on YouTube, X, Rumble, and Twitch. Choose Rumble if you're having trouble making a decision. They are a free speech platform. What would you call them? Parallel economy. That's the word they like to use. There's so much to go into. I think I cut a few stories. I'm just scanning through my notes here. I don't know how I'm going to get through all of it in an hour. That is my target time frame. Although it's very loosely established. You can find the audio for this show also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts throughout the day. When you go to work, when you put your headphones in, I'd appreciate it if you gave me a download, gave me a like, gave me a subscribe, and most importantly, give me a share, because that's what I am relying on the most to spread the word on this podcast. Of course, you know how important it is to get your information from unbiased sources. I have my own biases, but that usually just means that I don't really believe anything, whether it comes from the left or it comes from the right, which is, of course, increasing more and more my skepticism. The more events take place and the more perplexed I am at the outcomes of these stories and the actions this government is taking, even when it's led by Donald Trump, who I really want to trust and I really want to believe is doing the right things for the country. But the reasons for my skepticism are going to come out a little bit later in this show. A story that wasn't making giant headlines, even though it probably should have, is that China secretly bought a trailer park in Missouri, which shares a fence with a U.S. nuclear bomb fleet. I'm sure there's nothing to be worried about there. Let's watch the video.
The Daily Caller reports a U.S. nuclear bomber fleet shares a fence with a trailer park linked to Chinese intelligence. Here it is. So it's one thing for a Chinese couple to buy a trailer park. Here it is. This is thanks to Google Image. It is another thing for them to go to great lengths to hide who they are, including using multiple shell companies to conceal their identities. Why is this all important? Because they bought a trailer park in the middle of Missouri, no disrespect to Missouri. It's at the foot of the runway where America's largest fleet of B-2 bombers take off. So you can see on the map there, the B-2s are just on the other side of those trees. So here's the map. The trailer park is right behind the runway, less than a mile away. So in the event of war, our B-2 bombers would be taking off over Chinese-owned land. It's even more alarming when you factor in that the shell companies trace back to a convicted fraudster with alleged ties to the Chinese Communist Party. This is happening in Republican Congressman Mark Alford's district in the state of Missouri. As I said, no disrespect to Missouri. I don't think you buy a trailer park in your Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri as an investment when you're sitting in Beijing going, you know, honey, what could we invest in? Oh, I know. Let's find a trailer park.
And you get a lot of double wides.
Right.
I don't think they're interested in that, Leland. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, the Whiteman Air Force Base is slap dab in the middle of our district, home of the B-2 stealth bomber, soon to be home of the B-21 Raider, which is coming in the not too distant future. And it's going to exponentially increase the size of that force there on Whiteman Air Force Base.
Make the Chinese investment all the more valuable.
Exactly.
So no, but
we've got to get them out
happen?
of there. Well, all right. So this transaction, according to the research that I've done on this article, happened way back in 2017. In 2024, in January, our then Governor Parson, put out an executive order for all military bases within the state of Missouri. You cannot be a citizen or a company in a foreign adversarial nation, as so designated by our State Department, and own property within 10 miles of a DOD, a Department of Defense base. I didn't think that was good enough. We need to expand that, and that's why I filed the American Land and Property Protection Act, basically that says if you are a member of a foreign adversarial nation, a citizen or a company of those, China, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea,
Russia.
You cannot own even an outhouse in the United States of America. You cannot go to those countries.
Okay, but you're not going to do that because you're not going to be able to take land away from all the Chinese people who own condos.
And here's something else, Leland. There is a Department of Treasury has the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States of America called CFIUS. They are supposed to be taking a look at this. Under the Biden administration, they were not doing their job. In fact,
this happened in the Trump administration, the first Trump administration.
And whatever department was running it at that time did not do their job, and they somehow overlooked. They started to put some regulations in place where they were going and looking at these. Okay,
so let's look at this.
They didn't have
where we're
an
at
Air
now.
Force Base on the list of those. And
why would we have a list? Why would we have the Air Force Base with one part of the nuclear triad on the list? Who knows? Chinese companies buying land near U.S. military bases. Okay, so the Chinese have a plan to do this, right? And sometimes they conceal it through multiple shell companies. Sometimes they just go out and do it. And these are very strategically picked bases: Fort Bragg, Naval Air Station, Norfolk, Wright-Patterson, Whitman Air Force Base, as well. I get having new legislation and this, that, and the other thing, but right now you have B-2 bombers flying over Chinese-owned land. How do you stop that right now?
We get CFIUS under the Treasury Department, and I'm on the Financial Services General.
Just seize the land. Why is this? What do you think China would do? What do you think China would do if they found out that the American government was buying land next to their military installations? They would seize the land, because that's what any self-respecting government, any self-respecting military would do if they discovered that their number one adversary was buying private property in close proximity to their military bases. When are we going to stop playing nice? When are we going to stop trying to play by the rules with entities that willingly break the rules at every opportunity? Until we do, we're just going to keep declining. I mean, what do you think China can do with this property? They could move EMPs into the trailer park and take down our B-2 bombers as soon as they take off. Of course they could. This isn't fantastical military technology we're talking about. This is easily done. Oh, but they have rights and they have, yes, of course. I mean, because number one, you have to talk about the private citizens that ought to be allowed to sell their property to whomever they choose. Right? Except for that we probably shouldn't allow them to sell their property to adversarial foreign governments, right? And as you heard, they hide it. They try to make it look like it's a private individual. We have to start drawing lines somewhere. And one of the core doctrines of this show is my belief that our foreign adversaries, globalist authoritarians, elitists, the ones that hate the West and want to destroy the country, have been probably for 3 decades at least or longer, been studying our founding documents to find the loopholes, to find the attack vectors to facilitate our downfall. And I think this is just one of the ways that this is being done, and that is allowing us to see these tactics taking shape. Along with the elections, along with voter ID, along with all of the ways that we are slowly watching our country slip through our fingers. Seattle just elected a crazy Marxist, apparently. This is the breakdown from the band beard. Oh, he says a bad word. How long have we been? Oh, okay. We're 15 minutes in. We're past the point of censorship and demonetization. Not that I actually care about that.
41 years old, dropped out of college, never held a real job for any period of time, has lived off of her mommy and daddy in their basement up until 40. never owned a car, rides a bicycle. She's a community organizer making $75,000 a year now. Living in a one-bedroom apartment with her husband, they can't afford their bills with their child because he also doesn't have a job. Her mom and dad still cover her bills and daycare for her child, and you just made her the mayor of Seattle. $9 billion budget.
And what a perfect candidate. If you want the city to pathetically fail, why not install this person who has no idea what they're doing? Or can at least claim that they have no idea what they're doing? Because then they can go back and pull up the video from this guy and say, oh, look, see, we should have never voted for her. We shouldn't have trusted the mainstream media. Of course, she ruined the city. She was completely unqualified for the job that we elected her to do. Or this is exactly part of the plan. We're installing these people. I should say these people are being installed through fraudulent elections to take down the cities that they're tasked with governing, and they can use the excuse that they were grossly unqualified to actually do the job. The perfect scenario. Now, oh, whoops, Seattle failed. Why was it? Was it foreign intelligence that rigged the election to install a completely incompetent individual to do the job? Coming right out of college. Well, I guess she's 41, so not right out of college. Their head filled with all of these Marxist ideologies that don't work at all, but have been very inspiring to her in this college setting. Yeah, get her in there. She's great. Diversity, equity, inclusion, all these wonderful things. And the media backs her up and says, hey, everybody, it's a great idea. Nothing to see here, I suppose. Another one bites the dust, because that's what happens when you vote by mail and do no meaningful audits. And oh yeah, most importantly, hold no one accountable for cheating. This is how 42 Muslims won elections this year. Probably. At least she has a kid. At least, hopefully, she understands the importance of family in Western culture. But I don't think it really matters what she thinks, because these people are cowards. Many of them likely have guns to their head, figuratively, and will do whatever they're told to do. Will enact whatever policies they're told to enact. Because they're not accountable to us. They're accountable to the people that pulled the strings, that funded the campaigns, that got them into office. This is the state of American politics today, it would seem. And speaking of American politics, the shutdown has finally ended. Oh, yay. We can all get back to our normal lives now that we're not all disrupted by the federal government being shut down, right? Did you notice? Did you notice anything different? Of course, I'm not speaking to you, the person that worked for the federal government, that was furloughed or had to go to work without pay. Of course, you recognized the difference in the government shutdown. I do not work with the federal government or even close to the federal government. And I did not feel the federal government shutdown one iota. But it was shut down over 43 days. But you know what? I still paid taxes every single day of that shutdown. And I don't know about you, but I would like a prorated discount. And I did the math so that I know exactly how much money I need to ask to be refunded by the federal government. On a middle-class income, you pay about $50 a day in taxes. Over 43 days, that comes to almost $2,000. Which, interestingly, is almost exactly the amount Donald Trump wants to give taxpayers in his proposed tariff dividend checks. Do you think it's really going to happen? Do you want it? I mean, I think we are all probably feeling like we could really use an extra $2,000 right now, especially before Christmas, right? Well, it's far from a reality, and it's definitely not happening before Christmas. I asked Grok, because why not? What do you think? What do you think, Grok? Is Trump's proposed dividend check of $2,000 to American taxpayers likely to happen? And he answered, no, it's unlikely. Trump's $2,000 tariff dividend proposal lacks a formal plan, requires congressional legislation, and the math doesn't add up. Tariff revenue was only $195 billion last year and falls short of the estimated $300 billion to $600 billion cost. Isn't it crazy to think that that's with what? What's our annual budget? 35 trillion? Or is that how much we're in debt? It doesn't matter. Giving every American taxpayer $2,000 would only be 300 to 600 billion. When we give the military almost $1 trillion every year. Only half of 1 trillion to cut us all checks for $2,000, which I would only accept as a refund for the days that the government shut down. Because that's how I see it. If you're not going to work, why am I paying you? I mean, that's not how the world works. I'm not funding your PTO. I'm not funding your 43-day furlough. It's your fault it closed down to begin with. So tariff dividend, probably not. Maybe not. I don't know. What's I mean, it's not that they couldn't do it. How many Democrats do you think are going to run on legislating a $2,000 tariff dividend check to give out to all the tax? Do you think any of them are going to do that? If it takes an act of Congress and it's not happening before Christmas, that means it's going to happen sometime in the election year. And Democrats, I think, would love a campaign talking point claiming that, hey, we're going to give you cash. Except for that, they would have to say, we're going to roll out in support of Trump's tariff dividend check. Would never happen. Because they're forbidden. They're forbidden from supporting anything that Donald Trump does, which I think is why the shutdown took place to begin with. But now it's over. Now it's over for another 6 weeks. I got to ask Grok. I should have asked Grok, but this question comes, these questions pop into my head at random. And I have to find out, how long is the government funded now that an agreement has been reached on the current shutdown? I got to wait for the quick answer to pop up, and hopefully he doesn't give me, I should have asked for just a brief answer because, yeah, I'm going to get 10 weeks. 10 weeks. The government is funded. So, hey, in 2 months, we get to do this all over again. How wonderful. And why? Oh, because we can use it as leverage against the people to get the politicians that actually care about the people to give the politicians that don't actually care about the people the legislation they want, which is for the people. No, it's for the corporations that fund their campaigns and probably threaten their lives in some situations. But hey, now we have 10 weeks where we don't have to talk about the government. Well, it's probably going to be maybe 8 weeks because the 2 weeks leading up to the shutdown will be inundated with, oh no, we have another government shutdown coming. And we're just cool with this over and over again because, well, we're not really cool with it, are we? We just don't have a voice. We don't get to decide what the government does because we're not funding their campaigns with billions and billions of dollars because we can't afford to fund their campaigns with billions and billions of dollars because they've abused the economy so badly that our money isn't worth anything. And only a small number of billionaires actually care about that. And most of them don't, because they're all in on the globalist agenda, which whispers sweet nothings in their ear. Oh, don't worry. You just support us. Support us in this cockamamie globalism scheme, and we'll make you rich. We'll give you a fiefdom. You'll have subjects. It'll be great. Just, hold your breath. So now the shutdown is over. The Democrats are big losers because they just did what we were asking them to do for the 43 days that they shut the government down. I mean, it was all for nothing. But we have to distract from the L, right, Democrats? We have to distract. So we're going to try the Epstein thing again. Right Angle News Network broke on X. It's been revealed Democrat Rep. Jamie Raskin was involved in a plot where prison staffers stole Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney-client emails and funneled them to him, which he then leaked to the media in an attempt to smear President Trump. His lawyer found out and wrote this email. I'm going to zoom it in a bit. Oh, it's not going to zoom in. Wonderful. Because everything works exactly perfectly the way it's supposed to work. Let's see if I can use my super sight power. Statements by Leah Safian, counsel to Ghislaine Maxwell. She writes, the release to the media by Congressman Raskin, Democrat from Maryland, of Miss Maxwell's privileged client attorney email correspondence with me is as improper as it is a denial of justice. The Congressman Raskin is a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, an attorney and law professor. He must be aware that his conduct undermines the whole legal process. His action should be a matter for professional disciplinary action. There have been appropriate consequences already for employees at federal prison camp Bryan. They have been terminated for improper, unauthorized access to the email system used by the Federal Bureau of Prisons to allow inmates to communicate with the outside world. The provision of those emails to a federal official who then caused them to be shared with the media is a breach of constitutional protections, including the First, Sixth, and 14th Amendments afforded to all prisoners. Dressing the improper action up as, quote, whistleblower information does not mitigate the fact that the mails were both illegally obtained and put to unconstitutional purpose. It is clear that no effort to fact-check the credibility or veracity of the so-called whistleblower was made by the representative or his offices. For Rep. Raskin to seek to make political capital from such publication and from the content of personal emails between Miss Maxwell and a family member is both shocking and reprehensible. And they got nothing out of it. Literally everything that they tried to claim from these emails was rapidly debunked. Jamie Raskin is the definition of corrupt scumbag weasel politician. He was on the J6 committee. And he, with his Democrat cohort, said, well, I'm going to leak these emails, and this is going to give us the Epstein story. We're going to have the Epstein story going again after our embarrassing defeat on the shutdown. But here's what we ultimately learned from the emails from Solionath on X. With the release, he writes, with the release of Epstein's emails, we found that Epstein hated Trump, didn't trust him. They weren't friends. The New York Times directly worked with Epstein to suppress stories about him. After Bradley Edwards, the lawyer for the accusers, said that Trump was the only individual to cooperate and help, Epstein said Trump didn't have one decent cell in his body. This was also compelling that the Democrats faked the redaction of a supposed victim's name. The name they blocked was Virginia Giuffre, who publicly testified that Trump was innocent. There was also a claim made that Donald Trump spent Thanksgiving with Epstein in 2017 when he was already the president. Nick Sorter writes on X, breaking, the official X account of the Democrat Party has deleted their post, claiming President Trump spent Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017. And here's a screen grab of the post if you're watching the video on X, YouTube, Twitch, or Rumble. They wrote, along with a screen grab of the email, new documents show Donald Trump spent Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017. At the time, Trump was already president, and Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. Debunked, and they had to delete the post. They just lie and lie and lie. So Tim Burchett, that's how he pronounces it, from Tennessee, said, we need all the files so we know what's going on. Here's his statement on X.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett just left the House floor, and I tried to do a UC, unanimous consent, of tried to get the Epstein files, get it straight to the floor, to cut out all this nonsense, and and the Democrats blocked it, oddly enough. Now here they've had it for 4 years, and they obviously if there's something there about Trump, they would have released it, and now they're all, let's get it out. Well, I just made a motion to bring it straight to the dadgum floor, and they blocked it. So this is politics. It has nothing to do with that, what's doing what's right.
Yes, we're all very shocked. We're all very shocked that the Democrats just want to selectively leak information that they get that implicates the people that they want to be implicated and not people that actually need to be implicated. It's like the Russiagate hoax. It's like the January 6th hoax. How do these people keep getting elected to be in control of information? Well, that's because of all the reasons that we incessantly discuss over and over again that I will be relitigating later on in the show. So is Trump in there or not? If he is, why are Democrats blocking it? If he is, why wasn't this all released under Joe Biden's administration? And aren't these organizations afraid of being sued? Trump has made a lot of money suing media outlets for lying about him. I asked Grok, how much has Trump won in settlements with media companies? What suits are still being litigated? For how much? And how much is Trump seeking from the BBC, who is the latest organization accused of lying about Donald Trump to sway public opinion? Trump has secured approximately $90.5 million in recent settlements with media companies, including ABC, $15 million for defamation over the George Stephanopoulos segment, $16 million from CBS for the edited 60 Minutes interview, $25 million from Meta, $24.5 million from YouTube, and $10 million from X from when they suspended him while it was owned by Jack Dorsey et al. Ongoing litigated suits include a $10 billion defamation claim against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch's News Corp over alleged false reporting. $10 billion. God, that's a lot of billion. And Trump is seeking $1 to $5 billion from the BBC for defamation over misleading edits to his 2021 speech in a Panorama documentary. I believe that was that the Very Fine? It was either, no, I don't think it was the Very Fine People hoax. It was the speech that he made on January 6th, trying, of course, to frame him as, calling for insurrection. I don't know. I mean, how many more examples of media corruption? Oh, wait a minute. What did my layout do? Am I only half? I think I'm only half visible now. I'm sorry I keep doing this to you. But it's a problem that I need to rectify. if it persists. And yes, I'm only on half the screen again. Thanks a bunch, Riverside. I wonder if there's a way. Yeah, I don't think so. I guess we're going to move on. Hopefully the layout is fixed now. And I know many of you get the audio version, but the video's fun and it amplifies the reach, which is the goal here, you know? So continue to share, continue to spread the word. I really appreciate everything that you're doing to help the show grow. The show is growing, and I know it's because of you. So I deeply and sincerely thank you. Christine Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, is not going to run for Nancy Pelosi's congressional seat. No, she's going to run for Senate in California. And she'll win. She'll be there alongside Adam Schiff, provided he stays out of prison, which is, I mean, let's be honest, it's likely. Because the elections are rigged, especially in California, where Gavin Newsom won his recall election with 70% of the vote. Did you know that? It was like 60, it was literally like 69% of the vote he won in his recall election. You know, when he won election in the first place, when he was elected governor, he only got 61%. Then he did such a bad job that 2 million people signed a petition to hold a recall election. And we're supposed to believe that he did better in his own recall election after how grossly he's mismanaged California. Okay. I guess that's probably why California is being accused of rigging the recall election. Or not the recall, sorry. The redistricting election. @RealRobN writes on X, not only did Gavin Newsom use mail-in ballots from canceled removed voters to rig his unconstitutional race-based Prop 50, but he also used illegal aliens. Here's Carolyn Levitt making Trump's press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, making a statement on the integrity of California elections.
Legal and criminal review. By whom and why? And also, in this vein, does the White House still plan to issue an executive order banning mail-in voting, and what legal authority do you have to do that?
The White House is working on an executive order to strengthen our elections in this country and to ensure that there cannot be blatant fraud, as we've seen in California with their universal mail-in voting system. It's absolutely true that there's fraud in California's elections. It's just a fact. It is just a fact. They have a universal mail-in voting system, which we know is ripe for fraud. And if you want to deny that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in.
Oh, no. That's not what I wanted to do. Come on.
Whom and why, and also
it started
If
it
you
all
want to
over
deny
again.
that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in the names of other people, in the names of illegal aliens who shouldn't be voting in American elections. There's countless examples, and we'd be happy to provide them. As for executive action the White House is taking, yes, we are looking into that. And like any executive order, of course, any executive order the president signs is within his full executive authority and within the confines of the law.
So they sent ballots, California mailed ballots to ineligible voters who voted, returned the ballot, and the ballot was counted as an eligible vote. But there's more. Oh, and I didn't share the link. Damn it. It's okay. We'll pull it up fast. You know, you could actually see the no vote through the secrecy envelope. Let's see. What did I search when it was California ballot envelope, I believe. And I know, I'm sorry. You'll just have to trust me if you're listening to the audio only version. But if you're watching the video, or even if you're not watching the video, I would encourage you to jump in here and look at this picture of an actual California mail-in ballot where you can see, for some reason, they put holes in the envelope. I'm sure there's some technical reason that they do it, but they've designed this ballot on this redistricting election to show perfectly where the no vote bubble was filled in through the holes in the secrecy envelope. You can see it plainly right there. And this, of course, would allow corrupt election workers to just discard the no votes if they felt so inclined. I'm not accusing California election workers of engaging in any impropriety, but I mean, these people are getting elected somehow. Or they could just set them aside. They could be instructed by election supervisors. Set the no votes aside. We'll count them later. And the media machine works overtime to make sure you don't hear about these stories, because we don't want any public support for election reform. This is another reason why the globalists need the media to radicalize half the population. So when the globalist candidate wins, when the globalist agenda is passed, half the population believes that that was the popular candidate. That was the popular agenda who won the most votes because they see the celebration through the screen. Did you see other Californians in some local election jumping for joy at a 3% tax increase? So excited to get to pay more taxes for their Marxist, globalist endeavors. But there are people working to gather public support for election reform, because we're talking about the 2020 election again and the 2022 election. Not surprisingly, because Carrie Lake posted this on X, or I should say shared, from Bad Kitty Unleashed, who writes, breaking, new 2020 election scandal. Soros ran a $500 million organized plan called Partnership for Safe Voting to administer the 2020 election to benefit Democrats. This included utilizing the Brennan Center to litigate. This was a big thing all throughout 2016. The 2016 Trump administration, I should say. We're talking drop boxes, ballot deadlines, fighting fraud allegations, ballot curing. All of the things you heard about in 2020 are still being exposed. And here's a refresher on all the allegations, if you need them. All of the claims that were made. I need to back this out a little bit. I'm still super zoomed in. Too easy to read. Too easy. I need to struggle a little bit. Grok provided these common claims of 2020 election irregularities used as proof of rigging. What do you think is going to be left out? Let's see. First item, widespread fraud via mail-in ballots, including unsigned or mismatched signatures, dead people voting in multiple states, non-citizens and illegal immigrants registering and voting, Dominion voting machines switching votes from Trump to Biden, poll watchers denied access or obstructed in key counting centers. Remember when they were putting poster board up over the windows so you couldn't see what they were doing inside these locations. Late night ballot dumps overwhelmingly favoring Biden. We've seen the charts. Statistical anomalies, such as more votes than registered voters in certain precincts, all explained away by same-day registration, which was another law that they changed in the name of COVID. Use of Sharpies in Arizona, allegedly invalidating Republican ballots. The fake water main break in Georgia's State Farm Arena, to pause counting and introduce hidden ballots, which actually turned out to be a leaking urinal in the men's restroom. Ballot harvesting and chain of custody violations. Cyber hacking or foreign interference altering vote tallies. Unprecedented last-minute rule changes relaxing verification standards. And affidavits from witnesses claiming observed fraud ignored by courts, which Bill Barr, the attorney general at the time, Trump's attorney general, refused to investigate, and not only refused to investigate, also went on to claim that there was no evidence of meaningful election fraud, despite that comprehensive list of all the election, we'll call them irregularities. And the most damaging thing is that we can't trust that our elections are safe. We can't trust that they're real. Basically, they're just being used as a poll to sway public opinion. I was shocked when Barack Obama got reelected in 2012. And I found myself thinking, I've told this story before. Well, I guess Barack Obama is more popular than we thought. The latest evidence provided to the public to, I guess, stir support for election reform is this recently resurfaced video of Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State for Georgia. I'm sure you've heard a lot about him, confirming that Trump won the state of Georgia. Let's listen.
Biden had high hopes late in the game of flipping this election, but we shall see. Is Georgia, and that state's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, is with us now. Mr. Secretary, good morning on a busy morning. I guess the big question is, Hoda?
Yeah, we want to know, when are we going to get your votes? When are we going to find out who's won your state?
Well, we have about 2% left to go. We had great success yesterday. We had 4.7 million voters that voted. Record breaker for us, beats the 4.1 in 2016. We also had average wait time of only 2 minutes, statewide average. We have about 2% left to go. And you can see where we are right now with the results that have been reported. I don't think it'll change any of the outcomes, but that's what really people that make those predictions do. What we'll do is get...
Well, that was interesting, though. We were just getting to the good part there because the Secretary of State said they got 2% left to count, Chuck, but he did not think it would change the outcome.
That's interesting.
So for all intents and purposes, he called the race for Donald Trump, and then the call was abruptly ended. Strange. Not suspicious at all. And of course, we know what happened. Turns out all the 2% that was remaining to be counted all went to Biden, for the most part, allegedly. To hand Joe Biden the state of Georgia and ultimately the presidency. So what are we going to learn? What's it going to change? Anything? Are we going to get meaningful election reform? I don't think so. It kind of feels like a distraction. And if I remember correctly, the records have already been destroyed because they only had to be kept for 3 months. I mean, anything that would constitute meaningful evidence of fraud was already legally able to be destroyed because they only have to be kept for a short time. Katie Hobbs, the governor of Arizona, who rigged the election for herself in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2022, against Kari Lake, because Katie Hobbs was Secretary of State when she decided to run for governor against Kari Lake. And strangely, there's no rules about recusing yourself before conducting an election that you're running in, which I think is how Josh Shapiro won the governorship of Pennsylvania, because I gotta look it up, but I'm pretty sure Josh Shapiro was the attorney general of Pennsylvania before he ran for governor of Pennsylvania. Unopposed. I mean, there was a Republican. But when they were primarying Democrat candidates for the governorship of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro primaried unopposed. I'm sure that didn't have anything to do with the fact that he was the Secretary of State and fully capable of rigging the election for himself in Pennsylvania. So things have been getting more and more intense on the evidence front, but I don't know that anything is actually going to happen. Katie Hobbs now being accused of corruption and being investigated for bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. Here you can see the video of her running away from reporters who are asking about this kind of thing. Real Rob writes on X, the chairman of the Joint Legislative Committee has informed Maricopa County's investigator, Maricopa County in Arizona, of course, that the Auditor General will assist in the investigation of bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. This comes after the Arizona Republic detailed how state contractor Sunshine Residential Homes bribed Governor Katie Hobbs and Arizona Democrats with $400,000 and in return got millions more in state money. Do you think anything is going to happen? These people are engaged in election fraud. These people are engaged in bribery and corruption. And we've got all this alleged evidence. But no arrests. All these affidavits of election fraud, but no arrests. I just keep wondering how they stole the election from Trump in 2020, but didn't steal it for him in 2016. And again in 2024. Well, I mean, why didn't they steal it? You know, they had the election results from 2016 at 2:30 a.m. the day after the election. And similarly, in 2012. But post-COVID, now it's days, weeks, months that they count ballots until, allegedly they arrive at the predetermined outcome. And I kind of feel like it all got started with Barack Obama. In his alleged attempt to cover his tracks for all the horrific Marxist things that he engaged in. Here's Tulsi Gabbard telling us all about it.
We look at where we are now. Over the last several weeks, we've declassified and released documents that exposed how President Obama and leaders in the intelligence community knowingly manufactured a false intelligence document after the 2016 election was done, after the American people said, no, we want Donald Trump to go and be our commander-in-chief, not Hillary Clinton. And this manufactured document alleged that Russia aspired to help President Trump win the election with the aim of undermining his presidency and usurping the will and the voices of the American people who sent Trump to the White House.
So hold on. Maybe the election was stolen for Donald Trump. Maybe the point of Barack Obama's actions was to create chaos amongst the American public against the faith in their election integrity. And this has created further divide among the American people because now elections can't be trusted. I certainly don't trust them. How can you see all of these irregularities, all these affidavits, all these claims of election fraud, all this convincing evidence, and think, yeah, the elections are fine, we don't need any reform? Oh, by the way, anyone can vote. Voter ID is racist. We can't have any safety measures in place because that's somehow voter suppression. It's a theory that needs further investigation that just occurred to me. If elections are stolen, why aren't they stolen every time? Why should I believe that it wasn't stolen for Trump in 2016? Why should I believe that it was stolen for Biden in 2020? And then that it wasn't stolen again for Trump in 2024? And then you look at the things that Trump's been getting up to. Digital ID. Tariff dividend checks. Which I sincerely hope, don't just, I mean, if they do come to fruition, if we do actually end up getting $2,000 dividend checks in the mail from these tariffs, that they won't, I mean, are they not going to devalue our currency further? No, I did see a study recently. I wasn't planning on talking about it, but a 150-year study was done that showed tariffs are actually effective in reducing inflation. But wouldn't that be reversed if you paid the tariff revenue back out to the taxpayers as some kind of economic stimulus? If tariffs reduce inflation, wouldn't paying the tariff revenue back out to the taxpayers just leave inflation right where it's at? I mean, how are we supposed to take money out of the system to reduce inflation, to increase the value of the dollar, by giving it back to the people to put right back into the system? This is what makes me skeptical about whether or not it's actually going to happen. Now on to some good news. Do you recognize the name LaMonica McIver? It was like a flash in the pan story. During all of the sensation that came with the ICE raids, with all of the congressmen and Democrat politicians trying to make headlines, trying to get a little more attention for themselves, a little more screen time, a little more street cred, LaMonica McIver assaulted an ICE officer on video. You can see it. I will play it here, but I'm going to mute it because there's nothing to hear. It's just chaos to see. And this woman in red, you can see her shoving, throwing elbows, yelling and screaming. She was charged. She was charged with assaulting an ICE officer. And the news out this week from the Gateway Pundit, the headline, just in, Biden judge refuses to toss federal criminal charges against Democrat Rep. LaMonica McIver. I am so happy to report that I was wrong about this one. And they got Swalwell too. For what? Eric Doherty writes on X, it's official. Rep. Eric Swalwell, Democrat from California, the land apparently of corrupt politicians, has been criminally referred to the Trump Department of Justice on accusations of mortgage fraud by Bill Pulte. Quote, Swalwell is accused of making false or misleading statements on a mortgage application, likely a $1.2 million house Swalwell has in the DC area. The process is the punishment, which is really the only thing that makes me feel better about these flimsy accusations, because they are flimsy. Do you expect anyone to be held accountable? I mean, of course, Swalwell will have the best lawyers. I think, didn't California just put some legislation in place? That was actually New York. to basically provide legal fees, taxpayer dollars, to cover the legal expenses that are incurred when these Democrat politicians are indicted for the criminal things they've been engaged in, allegedly. And it's just mortgage fraud again. I mean, maybe it'll stick. I hope it'll stick. These people are guilty of much worse. I mean, this is why they tried to get Trump on mortgage fraud, as I've mentioned before, because they were all doing it. Unfortunately, it seems to be the only thing that they can get some of these people on. And there's a lot, there are many outs for these people on these, I don't know, what would you call them? White collar crimes, process crimes, which can again be dismissed on, oh, well, it was just a mistake. They didn't know that they were doing it. Another sensational story, the final sensational story, I guess, because there's just really not a lot to report, is that Tucker Carlson came out with this bombshell, I suppose, report on some things that they discovered about Thomas Crooks. Should we watch Quiet Down, for God's sake? Some things that Tucker and his team discovers about Thomas Crooks.
These remarks were especially notable because they came at the final phase of Crooks's YouTube commenting. At that point, a new character emerged into the conversation, a user named Willie Tepes, who started pressuring Crooks to commit violence. For example, quote, "If a gun and a badge is all that is needed, then authority obviously comes from the barrel of a gun. We have more guns than they do. There is no way we can avoid a war at this point, so you better just get used to the idea. We have nothing to lose and everything to win. And the alternative, a global police state, is unacceptable. Nothing in life is simple, but that is no argument against doing it." So who is this Willie Tepes? Unfortunately, we don't know. The FBI hasn't made any mention of him in public, although they certainly know he exists. Just days after the shooting, somebody screenshotted Tepes' YouTube account page, despite the fact he had very few followers. To the extent that he can be traced online now, you can find his username being used on a foreign Antifa website. Those sites link him to the Nordic Resistance Movement, which has been designated a terrorist group by the U.S. State Department. That's all we know. We do know, however, that Crooks' online footprint abruptly ends after his encounter with this mysterious figure, Willie Tepes. Regardless of whoever Willie Tepes is or was and what his motives may have been, who he may have been working for, there is no doubt that Crooks was ripe for recruitment by someone.
And this is why this information is coming out. Because I think that Tucker Carlson is attempting to apply pressure to the FBI and the DOJ. I'm very skeptical because there's no identity verification on YouTube or on many social media platforms. Anyone could call themselves Tom Crooks on YouTube. Anyone could call themselves Willie Tepes. Not to mention that these tech companies can go back and change all of these things. They can make it look like things were posted on certain dates when they weren't actually posted there. All tools to make us believe things that aren't real are real. But why do you think we don't know anything more? Why do you think all of these questions are unanswered? Why do you think independent journalists like Tucker Carlson are hiring private investigation teams to dig all of these things up? And as a matter of fact, with all of the power that these tech companies have, why are these things still existing online, if not to leave trails of breadcrumbs to things that lead to paths that lead nowhere? To discredit people like Tucker Carlson for asking questions. I mean, this was the number one thing that the FBI responded to Tucker Carlson about. How do you know that this person that calls themselves Tom Crooks is the actual Thomas Crooks that had tried to assassinate Donald Trump? How do you know? You don't know. We don't even know if Thomas Crooks was actually the guy that was on the roof because we just stopped talking about the story. And that's the reason I think that Tucker Carlson is getting so much attention for this expose, because we don't know anything more. And Tucker is reminding everyone, hey, we still don't know anything about the guy that almost killed the president of the United States. So we're all saying, oh yeah, that's right. Hey, what are you up to? Don't tell me about 2020 elections. Don't tell me about mortgage fraud. Don't tell me about Epstein. I want to know about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy that tried to shoot the presidential candidate that we all love, that is the president now. Why do you think we don't know anything more? I think maybe it's because there was a foreign government involved. Maybe Ukraine. Then that would create a lot of instability in foreign policy to put that information out in public. Because what would the public demand if we learned that Ukraine or China or Israel enlisted some troubled youth in the United States to take a shot at Donald Trump while he was on the campaign trail? It's very fishy. It's very suspicious that to this day we still know nothing. And not to mention that all of the claims that we were told about this guy not having any kind of social media footprint turned out to be false. I mean, they can look at the stuff that he posted and say, hey, it doesn't look like, we have no way of verifying that this Tom Crooks is actually the Thomas Crooks, because anybody can call themselves anything online. But that wasn't mentioned. We were told no footprint. We were told completely clean domicile, no silverware. And then just left hanging. So I really hope that this information, this newly discovered information, this new pressure that's been put on the DOJ and the FBI will actually yield some information. But you'll have to check back with me again next Sunday at 11 a.m. when I go live. Before you go, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. I am at earthvox on X. In fact, I'm at earthvox pretty much anywhere. You can send me an email. I would love to hear from you. At the real earthvox at protonmail.com. I'm thinking about just changing it to the Earthvox podcast. I was given some suggestions by people that are no longer affiliated with the podcast about how to conduct myself. I don't know if I trust him or believe him anymore, but we'll see what happens with that. Finally, I would love it if you sent me, or left me rather, a voicemail at 701-787-1121. I'll be back.